Hi, I'm Dee Warner, school counselor at North Euless Elementary. I'm here today to talk with you about how to manage stress in your life using the concept of mindfulness. Stress is something that we're all familiar with. It's basically how we respond mentally and physically to the different demands that are placed onto us. Now, stress can have some positives and negatives to it. We typically don't see it as a positive, but it can be useful in helping to protect us from harmful sources. So that's when our fight or flight reaction kicks in. It can also be a motivator to us. So when there's a looming deadline for a project, for a test, or if bills are due, stress is that motivator to help us to work towards getting those things taken care of. Oftentimes, we know about the negatives that come along with stress. And that's why it's important for us to have tools in our toolkit to help us to be able to work towards lowering our stress levels. Stress can cause headaches, physically muscle tensions in our necks and our shoulders. It can cause us to have stomach problems, elevate our blood pressure, affect how we sleep, whether we're not getting enough sleep or maybe we get too much of it because our mood lowers and so we're feeling more depressed, worried, or anxious. Stress can also affect our appetite. So, we all know about stress eating more, but for some, stress can cause them to lose their appetite. Stress can impact our moods, not only with depression, but it can cause us to start to feel more irritable and even upset. And that irritability can impact how we respond to others around us, the things that we say and do. And if it's a negative response, then now we're, kind of pouring some stress over onto them into their lives, and that's not healthy at all. Stress can also impact our ability to concentrate and to focus. And what happens is that with stress, we're not in a calm state. Oftentimes, we're not able to breathe as deeply as we normally would be able to. So the oxygen flow is not getting into our system and getting into our minds. So we're feeling a little bit more foggy, and we just don't have that clarity of thought to be able to process information and what's going on around us. Which subsequently turns into some of the irritability, some of the reactions that we have, the negative reactions we can have towards others. And also, too, stress can cause us to be more forgetful than usual. We're just not functioning at our best capacity, when our stress levels are higher. And so that's why it's really important for us to have tools in our toolkit to help us to combat stress and to lower our stress levels so that we can function better. You may have heard of the concept of mindfulness. Very simply put, mindfulness means being present in the moment, being present. And it's not being anywhere else. It's not having all of these thoughts running through your mind, but it's just being present, being present and accepting in that moment and experiencing it. If you're able to do that, if you're able to practice mindfulness, then you can experience its benefits of a lowered stress level, decreased worry and anxiety. You'll better be able to think and focus because you're calm, your mind is clear, and just better be able to function overall. I often say that small children and dogs, our pets, know all about mindfulness. They know all about being in the moment. One way to experience mindfulness is through our senses. So what is it that we're feeling, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting? And again, if you ever observe a young child or even your dog when you go on a walk, they are using their senses to be mindful, to experience what's happening around them. It's a beautiful sight, but then also too, it's just a beautiful reminder that it's easy to do. Anyone can do it. And the opportunity is available there for you to practice it as well. A question I frequently will ask myself is, am I present or am I somewhere else? And you can do that as well. It will be a good gauge. Oftentimes the stress is already a good gauge, but this is a good question just to, practice asking yourself, am I here or am I somewhere else? So are you mindful or mindful? When your mind is full of everything that you're thinking about that you need to do, not just that day, but for that week, for the month, or you're thinking about the previous day or the previous weekend and what didn't occur. Oh, when it's full, all of those things, all of that information is just swirling about and, starting to slightly creep up our stress levels. Same thing too with the many devices and, sending and receiving messages and being online for a variety of things. Now, there's nothing wrong with accessing devices and utilizing them for different reasons, but it's important to have a healthy balance. When you're mindful, you're just present in that moment, experiencing it as it is. And so that's a great question to ask yourself. Am I here or am I somewhere else? Think about where you are mentally, here or somewhere else. And do you want to be mindful or mindful? Like I mentioned, it's very easy to practice mindfulness. And like I said, young children and pets do this all the time. And it's just a matter of being. If you can be present, you can feel calm, you can feel clear of mind, and you can have lowered stress levels. I mentioned about the five senses and that, our pets on a walk, they are fully engaged in that way, as well as kids, especially the young children, because that's how they're experiencing their environment that's around them. That's how they're exploring as they're continuing to grow. But your five senses are amazing at being able to draw you into that present moment and just away from everything else so that you can be mindful. And so what am I doing when I'm present in that moment using my five senses? I'm looking at my surroundings. What colors do I see? What textures? You can even feel the textures. I know that as a young child, walking through the neighborhood, if there was a fence, a chain link fence, I like to run my fingertips along that. So I'm experiencing my environment that way, while also seeing the colors around me, whether it's the trees and the leaves, especially if there's a change in the season. If the wind was blowing, I'm not only feeling that, but I'm hearing that breeze, the birds chirping, things like that. If you're able to connect in with your senses, your five senses, and it may not happen all at the same time, and that's okay, but just connecting in with your environment using your senses, that is very helpful. I often like to go on a nature hike at Cedar Ridge Preserve. We have a lot of places in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex that offer the opportunity to be able to get out, go for a walk, go for a hike, and just commune with the nature that's around us, to be mindful. Now, you can even just step out of your front door and either sit in a chair and experience your environment, or even go for a nature walk that way. Cooking is another mindful activity. Now, I know that many of us are, the schedules are hectic. We're trying to get food quickly on the table one way or another for our kids to get them fed. But I just want to bring you back to the fact that there are many things that we do in our life that naturally lend themselves to being mindful, and cooking is one of them. I love being able to make a homemade soup or stew, as well as many one-pot rice and bean dishes. I love those. I do love the prep that goes into it, because I'm looking at the vegetables, in their whole shape. And then as I begin to prepare my mise en place, I'm chopping up the onions, chopping up the bell peppers, mincing the garlic, shredding some carrots, things like that. Even when I'm rinsing off the vegetables, rinsing off the tomatoes and things like that. You are using your senses there, and you are being present in that moment mindfully. As you continue from the pre-prep of the meal, when I'm placing olive oil into a pan, and then now I'm putting in the onions, and I'm starting to hear the sizzle. My ears are at play. A couple of minutes into it, when I'm sauteing them, now the aroma is hitting me. I add another layer by placing some garlic into the pan, so the aroma is further heightened, and so forth, as I continue to add more vegetables. At the end, when I'm done cooking my meal, now I get to sit down and enjoy it. And Again, I'm being mindful even while eating, not having a device out and open. I know that sometimes people need to do that, but if you're able to put the device away and just eat, sit there, chew. I mean, even before you start chewing, look at what's on your plate or in your bowl, smell and take in that aroma, then take a bite and just think about what are the flavors, what are the herbs or the spices that you're tasting. You're being mindful in that moment as well. Now, I know sometimes people say, well, cooking can be great, but the after part is what they don't like. Well, guess what? Cleaning up and washing dishes is totally mindful as well. So yes, whether you do the old school method and wash your dishes or you use a dishwasher to wash your dishes, it doesn't matter because you still have to rinse off the dishes. But again, your senses are at play. You're feeling the water, you're feeling the suds, you're feeling the texture of the sponge as you're trying to clean off or, clean up or rinse off your dishes. You can use mindfulness. You can use dishwashing or placing dishes into the dishwasher as a mindful moment as well. Breathing, and I mean deep breathing, is part of mindfulness. And I like to use this whenever I'm driving along the road because there's always someone zipping here and there. Everyone seems like they're in a hurry. And, we're driving defensively to try to be safe. But I'm also driving in a way to be calm and be at peace. So I will use breathing to help me to be mindful even while driving. And when we talk about breathing, we're talking about a big, deep inhale through the nostrils, like as if you're smelling something super yummy, like pizza, fresh hot pizza, and you can smell that aroma. And then a huge exhale out your mouth, kind of like either you're blowing off, the pizza's too hot to eat, so you're trying to blow at it to cool it off. But I also like to say, think about when you're trying to blow up balloons, the old school throwback balloons for a kiddie birthday party, which are pretty tough to do. You know how hard we try to push out and exhale. So think about that when you're trying to look at breathing in deeply and then exhaling strongly. So let's practice. And you can do that as many times as you need to help you to feel more calm and more centered. I know that when I awake in the morning, aside from drinking some water, because we do dehydrate overnight, aside from drinking water, and again, the senses are at play because there is the touch and the taste there of the liquid and the temperature of it, I do some deep breathing, inhale and exhaling as well. And that's just to help me to have an opportunity to be able to start my day in a peaceful way. And something that, if I can start my day like that, then I want to carry that forward with me. So as I mentioned, that there are many things you've already been doing that relate to mindfulness, so we can call it like stealth mindfulness. It's just a matter of thinking more about the approach that you take with it. So instead of just jumping in and jumping out the shower, the tub, taking that time for you. I mean, there's only one you. And, there's always going to be a schedule. There's always going to be many things that we need to do or many demands that are being placed onto us. But if we can work towards taking that time for ourselves, so when you take that shower, how can you help that to be a mindful, multi-sensorial experience for you? I like to add in fragrant Epsom salts, some salts with fragrances to them in the shower, so that adds an aromatherapy piece to it, so that awakens my senses that way. And then also too, some people like bath cloths, some people like loofahs or sponges. Those are different textures in your hand, and then also that sensation on your skin as you're showering or taking a bath. When we're making our bed, that's a mindful moment there as well. Some people might say, I don't have time to make my bed. Understand. Again, that goes back to the busyness, and then that goes back to being hectic and How high would those stress levels be because we're bounding here and there, and are we mindful or mindful? But if you make a concerted effort to be present in that moment, making the bed, smoothing it out, seeing the textures, things like that, with the pillows, when you straighten those up, that helps you to practice mindfulness there. So there's many activities in our life, just like getting dressed, I've already mentioned about eating, that relate to being mindful. Now, I like to do the cooking, the breathing. I mean, the breathing happens more often. Again, cooking, when I have time to be able to cook from scratch, it's definitely a great opportunity for me to practice mindfulness. But there's other ways that you can practice mindfulness. So I wanted to provide you this resource here with some other options. I often believe in, if it's working for you, do it, do more of it. So that's me with the breathing. And sometimes, for some people, it can be fun to mix things up. So there are people who love to color, drawing, coloring, very mindful activity. You're present, you're in that moment. One of these on here, if you look down at the bottom row, second from the left, go for a rainbow walk. And so, we're talking about you and managing your stress with that. That can also be incorporated with your children, having a rainbow walk if you're out and about. So it just kind of makes it, you're cluing in to your environment and being more present there. You can even just do it at home. What do I notice that has the colors of the rainbow? Or what do I notice that is, the color blue? Things like that. The fact of the matter is, I hope that you can see that mindfulness is available for all of us. And it's just about being open, being present in that moment, being mindful, not mindful, just being. The last thing I want to leave you with is you have to make sure that you know that you have permission to take care of yourself. And this is so important for all of us. We must take care of ourselves so that, we are nurtured, so that we have something to give to our others, our loved ones that are in our lives. And, you may have heard this expression before, trying to pour from an empty cup. Well, it's not possible. But stress is going to happen. We know this. We want to use tools that's going to help us to lower those levels. And I hope that you find that mindfulness can be a way to help you to achieve that. The last thing I wanted to say is we as an HEB family, we are here for all of you all. And if you ever find that things become a little bit more overwhelming, and it does happen to us, even when we do have our tools and we're trying to use those, sometimes things become more overwhelming and we do need extra help. Don't hesitate to reach out to your campus, your school counselor about that. And we are more than happy to follow up with you and talk with you further and to see how we can get you connected in with the supports that you need. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found something useful, and breathe and be.